Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're talking about what we discovered yesterday. And yesterday could be last week or 25 years ago. Join us as we share big and small things that we've learned make life better and more fun. Let's get started. Good morning, Mindy.
Hey, Marie.
Julie, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, listeners, we are up bright and early, 8 o'clock, trying to record this, which seems early because we're coming off summer. As we move into fall and winter, 8 o'clock is actually probably late for us.
Mm-hmm. True. We're all a bit lazier these days.
I know. It's the lazy days of summer. Isn't that what they say about August? But it's time for the second episode in our series based on just the title of a Beatles song. Sometimes we find our topics in really strange ways, and Julie was thinking about all the hits the Beatles had had and thought how appropriate some titles are to life. Last month in episode 93, we shared all the ways we've given and received help over the years, and today we're talking about, sing it with me, girls, yesterday. What did we learn or discover yesterday? Yesterday can be last week or 25 years ago, and we hope that you'll discover some new ideas right along with us to use in your life. Julie, do you want to go first with what did you learn yesterday?
All right, I guess I thought back a long way on this one, mainly because my daughter has a new baby, so this was to young moms.
Okay.
I learned to not always be living for the next phase, to enjoy the one you're in because it won't last long. I know I had a tendency through each phase to say, oh, well, it'll be better when she's or he's doing this, or you're always going to go through a transition phase, especially if you have more than one kid. Life is going to be constantly changing. You're never going to arrive and stay there.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great advice because there are some stages that we do wish might pass a little faster. But even those we look back, even those we look back and the bad part fades and we think, all right, well, it wasn't that bad. So yeah, each phase will go through and most of them are so enjoyable for different reasons.
Yeah.
Those are some of they are. And there's some of the funniest stories now that I tell the kids. I'm like, you did this when you were little. And I thought I was going to lose it. But now that's like just one of my most treasured memories.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But do you have any treasured memories around potty training, Mindy?
No,
I don't either. You do, Julie?
Well, I mean, they're just funny. They were horrible stories, but now I can just really laugh,
Oh my goodness.
And I like to share them with particular children.
Yes. Yes, I had an artist in my house.
Oh, an artist. Okay, that'll be like a blackmail situation.
I can't even say the name.
Oh my, I can't give names.
Oh my goodness.
You know who you are.
Mindy, what did you learn yesterday?
I thought back to my young married self, my newly married self. Of course, I was 18 when I got married. I think I wanted to talk to the new wife out there.
Okay.
It was a big transition for me. You know, the verse about leaving your mother and father and clinging to your husband. And there were just a couple of things that I felt like I learned that were quite crucial for building that foundation before we added children. So don't call your mom and dad all the time. And don't tell them everything.
Mm-hmm.
I love my mom and dad. But one of the very best things that Bryce and I ever did, I hate to say it, was move away from them. It really made Bryce and I cling to one another. I couldn't just call up my dad to fix something in the house or call my mom for the emotional support. I had to learn to do that with Bryce. He was my person, and it took training and it took time and events for us to really cling to one another. And I think that has just only built our marriage that much stronger over the past 23 years. Learning to pray with one another and run to your spouse first before anybody else.
That is
Yeah.
good advice.
That's good advice no matter what stage you're in. It's funny because if you share fights or negative things about your spouse with other people, you a lot of times get over it. But the other person still remembers what you shared. So
That's right. That's right. And now as a mom with adult children, I think, don't you treat my baby girl bad, or don't
Yeah.
you treat my,
Uh-huh.
And I get it. I totally get it. Cause now I'm almost that mom. You
Right.
guys have married adult children. So
Yeah, I know my mom gave me the same advice. She says, Julie, I don't want to hear about fights and things because you will forgive and I may not be able to, or I'll just remember those things. So I thought that was, good advice on her part to see it from both sides,
Right.
That was wise. Yes. How about you, Marie?
Well, this was not the first thing I was going to share, but I think I will go ahead and share it now because it kind of does fit younger moms. It really can fit any stage, though. I mean, I still struggle with it to this day, even though I'm going to put that I've learned it because I do know it. I just don't always practice it. But I was going to say, don't let the judgment of other people steal your joy. You're never going to please all the people all the time. And I was remembering all the time I spent as a young mom thinking about a comment that someone said to me more than once, the same person, when my oldest two were little. They would make comments on the spacing of kids. And I don't know if you guys remember this being a big deal. Now I don't think even two things about it. But when you're a young mom, it is a question of how far apart or how close should my kids be and what's best. And she would say things like, how many years should be between each kid. And, if they're too close together, they're not getting enough individual attention or you're not enjoying them enough. It's not good for your body or whatever. And why I let that person's opinion bother me so much, I don't know. But then I would start thinking about how I'd done my two oldest a disservice, because that was all I had at the time was the two. Were they suffering from a lack of individual attention? Would I be sorry when they left for college so close together? It's ridiculous when I look back on it now that they're 22 and 24. But I really let her comments bother me. And that was before the internet. You couldn't just Google reasons to have your kids close together, reasons to have them far apart, and see why people make all different kinds of choices. It was just like, man, she would say that. And then I would think, well, I messed up. Isn't that ridiculous?
No. Like my skin is crawling and I'm having like a visceral reaction, Marie. I have forgotten about that. You are so right. I kept thinking Abby and Grant were too close together.
Yeah.
And then you try to plan and then you can't plan for when you're going to have a baby.
Right.
Like you cannot control that. And I remember thinking I had messed up.
Yes. And people, they say, I know that they don't realize what they're saying, but it just, and some people are more affected by other people's opinions than others. Some listeners might be like, I wouldn't have let that bother me for 2 seconds. But it did bother me. And it made me feel like I had messed my kids up.
Yeah. It's almost like you don't love your kids because you had them too close together, because you can't possibly give them everything they need.
Right. And so that's just true of so many things in parenting. There's always going to be someone saying, oh, you should have done it this way, or this other way would have been better, or whatever. But, try not to let those opinions steal the joy in what's already done. What's done is done,
What are you going to do? Go back? I mean, I'm sorry. Return one?
I know. Oh, all right, Julie, what's something else that you learned yesterday?
I have learned more recently to be less uptight with spending money. Life is short. This is all from my husband. Life is short. Enjoy the season you're in. You don't know what tomorrow holds. And I just always, he's the spender, I'm the saver. So I always just felt like we were supposed to just be saving for some unknown thing in the future. I always just had an uneasiness about the future. Like, not that we were saving for a specific item, but we should just be saving,
For when he comes home and says, I lost my job, or, know.
Well, I mean, we do try to prepare for those things, but there was just always this vague sense of, no, we can't spend any money. Right. Recently, it was my idea to spend some money. And I think he was really shocked. And I was like, well, we might as well enjoy it now. I think he was kind of shocked,
Like,
trying to be a little less uptight about that and to think, what are we saving it for?
Right.
Beyond the practical things that we know to do and to prepare for, but to not just, always be thinking the worst.
Yeah. And that might seem weird for some listeners too. Like the ones that are the spenders, they're probably like, do you have to learn to spend money? I have to learn not to spend it.
And I'm thinking like, John's like, oh no, Julie's becoming a spender. I'm going to have to be the saver now.
Right.
Like there has to be one person in the couple, like keeping you guys.
That's true.
And, it's because I have agreed to spend money through our whole marriage, obviously, because he's the spender. But maybe it was more of an attitude change. Like I was at peace with it. I was going to actually enjoy this purchase. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without thinking, was that the best thing to do? Should we have done that? Just go with it and enjoy it.
Good. That's awesome. Mindy, what's something that you've been learning?
I went back again, and this is again marriage focused. And I was thinking back to that time in my life when we had 4 kids at home and how different my relationship with Bryce was. And I think there were just some crucial things that we had to develop even at that busy time in life so that our marriage could continue to be solid. And so I think that's who I want to talk to now is the mom in the busy season with kids all the time. And you never have time to talk even to your husband.
Uh-huh.
Learning to have a united front with Bryce with the kids. I always have chosen to choose him over them. He came first, they came later, and now that my kids are leaving, he's the one that stays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're united. We have each other's back. We agree with each other. I'm not going to disrespect him. And one major thing in our marriage, as you guys know, wherever dad moves, mom and the kids move. That's kind of a rule we set up to keep our marriage strong. By prioritizing mom and dad, Bryce and I being together through all of our moves, we have learned that our children find refuge and security in our love, in our relationship. So I actually have a sign hanging in our house. It says, home is wherever we are together, because our home location changes often. Mm-hmm. And I think that just prioritizing my marriage over the kids, and that has been really hard. I could go all into how hard that has been, but it has proven to be the best choice that we have made.
Yeah, it is hard to prioritize your marriage over your kids. Kids always need something. And if you buy into the line or the attitude or the thought that, well, I will get back to my husband when my kids don't need me as much, there's never a time. They still need you as they get older, too. They think nothing of interrupting your plans, interrupting your conversation, interrupting what you're doing from the time they are infants until adulthood. Like, you're going to have to be the one that draws that boundary. They will never draw it for you.
Amen.
Well, this is not really towards a specific stage of life, but I've just found this to be true over and over again. And I'm finding it true even in this time of COVID and school starting back up. But here's kind of how I summarized it. Wait a bit and others will pick up the fight too. So there have been a lot of things over the years with raising 5 kids that I've seen the school propose doing, from little to big things. And some of them I've been like, what? I don't think that's a good idea, or I definitely don't want my kid doing that. But often, if I wait a day or 2 or 3, I've seen someone else address it. And a retraction email arrives in my inbox, or my kids come home and say, oh, they decided not to do that. And many times it's someone else's mom who probably said it in a more diplomatic way than I would have. They've already addressed the issue and it's been put to rest. So I'm not saying never get involved or speak up. I'm just saying that if you think this issue is going to be something a lot of people don't like, maybe save your call to the administration for something else.
Yeah, share the work. Yeah,
do
and it's
that
easy to think
often.
maybe that you're the only one that doesn't like it sometimes, but
Right.
no, most likely there's a lot of people out there like you that have the
Well,
same thought.
I think that's just an act of self-control too, Marie, because like, you get online and you see something and you have this immediate reaction or an immediate comment, and just that, like, that pause, that hold off, don't react right away, to a particular thing. It served me well, I think, because there's a lot of things I would have said that would have hurt a lot of people's feelings.
Yeah.
And I would have looked like a fool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think that's a good rule for all of life.
Oh gosh. Yeah, just hold on a minute. Yeah, absolutely.
There will definitely come a time that you're forced to speak up.
Yes.
All right, Julie, can you share something else that you learned yesterday?
Okay, this is something practical. It goes back to spending money again, but it's for our household. Early on, we decided that we would wait until we could afford the best that we could buy for a specific, like a dining room or whatever, instead of just buying something to fill the space. So we were the house that went with the empty dining room for 6 years,
Okay.
Right.
And I remember I didn't have a dining room table and all that. So I had a small couch and a playroom in my dining room, so we just used it for other purposes until we could put in there what we really wanted. We just decided early on we didn't want to buy a bunch of temporary stuff because in the long run, we felt like that would be spending more money than we would if we just waited on what we really wanted. And I am really thankful that we did that because we have a lot of stuff that we still have from the early years of our marriage that we've, it's nice enough or it lasted enough. It still serves a good purpose and we've hung on to it. Not everything's in style, but
it'll come back around, Julie.
It's somewhere in the house serving a purpose. But,
right.
That was just something we decided that I've been happy with.
I love that, but I feel like you're being a good steward too. Like you're being a good steward of the things that when you spend money, you spend it the right way. So you don't waste your time. Because I certainly went through I'm going to buy everything we own in our house from a garage sale. And then it all went out the door when I had a garage sale. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, but you're not spending a lot at a garage sale. Like sometimes you have to do what you have to do, but I just didn't want to think of everything as just temporary until I could get this or whatever,
Right,
just wait.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Mindy, you're next.
Oh, wow. Gosh. Okay. So hang with me here, ladies, because my next one has probably been just an overarching theme. And I just want to talk about what I learned yesterday when my heart was broken. And this was something that has radiated through my entire life. I had to learn that God is bigger than the disappointments in my life. I think you're going to always be disappointed at something. The struggle of life is to learn that God's character is unfailing and faithful through every season of joy or pain, loss or abundance. He can be trusted when everything falls apart. He loves me unconditionally. And sometimes I've learned that it is a very loving answer when he says no. And sometimes he says, wait. Well, this has served me as I've learned to surrender every part of my life to the Lord, because now having children, I can't keep them from experiencing pain or disappointment like I would love to. I would love to protect my children from disappointments in life, but I can't keep myself from experiencing disappointments in life. So then as a mom, I've had to learn to teach my children that God will never leave them. He is with them wherever they go. And I want them to learn to lean on him and not me, because I can't even promise that I'm going to always be there for them as much as I would like to. So teaching them to trust the Lord through disappointment, through pain, the Lord has a purpose and that he's a very loving father. So I'm just talking to the person who's suffering, whose heart is broken. God is bigger. And I don't know how to end it.
Yeah. Well, no, those are good words of encouragement, Mindy. Those really are. And we all go through brokenhearted moments. That is something you go through yesterday, today, and you will go through them tomorrow. It never leaves your stage of life. There'll be something that you're experiencing hurt or heartache over. So that's a good reminder. I'm going to talk to the person that is thinking about, or has a pet? My overarching thing that I learned yesterday, and really this was about 2.5 years ago, pets are worth it and they add so much to your life. And every single person that's known me for the 20 years before that is like, who is this person?
Right.
After my first child, I wanted to get a dog. And a lot of people probably don't even believe that statement. But Steve wasn't really on board. And then
I'm skeptical.
Yeah, I don't think so, Marie.
Steve wasn't really on board. And then we moved, and then we had more kids, and the desire completely left me. So for about 20 years after that, I always just felt like I didn't need one more thing to take care of. I didn't feel like I had the love or the time an animal needs. Well, fast forward to my oldest getting married, and I started to feel like maybe I did have some headspace, and my younger kids had always begged me for a pet, and I thought, if we're ever going to experience family pet ownership, which I hear people rave about, I better get doing it. So we got a kitten, and we fell in love and lived happily ever after.
Oh my goodness.
But it seriously has been so great. It gave us someone new to love and to focus on in a time of loss. Not that your child getting married is a loss, but it was a loss to my kids that were at home. She wasn't, in our immediate family anymore. So we got Benny to replace her. She teases me about that. Yeah, she teases me about that. He has provided hours of entertainment and story sharing amongst the 5 of us that still live in the house. He is a loving comfort, snuggling with us. And it brought back all these things that I've heard other people say about their pets. Like, again, when my first child was a baby, I had a friend who had a big golden retriever, and he was an exuberant dog. And I don't think that I know I didn't feel as kindly towards him as she would have liked. And I think I probably had said some things that made that obvious. Anyways, one time she kind of snapped at me and told me, love me, love my dog. Basically, she didn't want to hear any more about me not liking dogs or whatever. And I really took that to heart and remembered it. And I tried to remember it with other people's dogs over the years too. Like, love them, love their pet. Like, people don't take kindly to people insulting their pets. It's kind of like, I'll fight with my sibling, but if you fight with them, you're my enemy. Like, you love me, you love my pet, or keep quiet about it. So that was a lesson I really understood once I had my own pet. Her words came back to me. And then another friend had said something to me over the years that I laughed so hysterically at when she said it. So we had both taken our oldest boys up to a camp to work at it for 3 weeks up in upstate New York. It was like 14 or 15 hours away. We had flown on a plane. We'd driven in a rental car. We dropped them off. We spent the night, and we were going to come home the next day. And we both were like teary-eyed and sad at dropping our oldest boys off, leaving them for 3 weeks. Like, we just felt sad about it. And I remember talking to her on the plane ride home and saying, like, well, what are you going to do when you get home or something? She goes, oh, I just can't wait to get home and snuggle with my dogs. And I remember laughing, thinking, are you serious? Like, it struck me as so funny. Like, I laughed and I just couldn't make sense of that statement. Anyways, I love to sit on the couch with a blanket and have Benny curl up on my feet. I love it. Those 2 things that people said over the years to me in particular come back to me a lot.
I'm so glad you've come around, Marie.
I guess
you're
still
getting to enjoy the pet joy.
I know. I'm the holdout.
Yeah. So I guess if you're on the fence and you're thinking, do I want to add a pet? I say go for it now. But for 20 years, I would have never said that.
I will say, because this was one of my things I've learned. This was just a short one, but that cats make the easiest pets. But having a dog is almost like having another child. I'll just leave it at that.
I have heard that, which is why I don't have a dog yet. But
yeah, you made the smart move starting with the cat.
Wow, that's why when we added a dog, we got rid of her a month later. I had not signed on for a 5th child.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. All right, Julie, what else did you learn yesterday?
Okay, this is something that I've probably learned the most recent. I would say, like you, Marie, I am learning. Maybe not.
Yeah.
I know about this, but I'm working this in. And this is from a study I'm doing, but just that we all have divine needs. And that means it's a need that only God can meet. And this kind of goes along with what you were saying, Mindy. Whether we realize it or not, sometimes we look to people, relationships, situations, circumstances that maybe we feel like we have more control of than we do. And just as you get older, I think you realize that we have a whole lot less control than we think. In parenting and in relationships and just in the way life goes. And the truth is that nothing in our lives can be adequately controlled to provide the assurance that we need for peace. Like that peace can only come from God. I know, I'm 54 years old and I've been a Christian for a long time, but I'm just really beginning to grasp that. What that deep sense of peace is in the midst of suffering and pain and stuff, that it's not about your circumstances. It's about your assurance and hope in Him, regardless of the circumstances. I think we just think we have a lot more control than we do.
Right.
And sometimes life shows you that you don't.
Right.
Oh, if we could only have as much control as we want or think we do.
It's true. Like the older I get, the more I realize the less and less control I realize I have.
Right.
Yeah, because I think when you're young, you set out and you think it's all up to me. Like, all these choices and you do have the choice, but
develop a plan and you want to do the plan.
Right. But the outcome really is way beyond our control.
Right. Right. All right, Mindy.
Okay, so this one's a little lighter, but another major significant point in my life was when my oldest child was leaving the nest. And so I want to talk to the mom. And I say that when your oldest child leaves the nest, because that was so much harder than when the second child left. I think like you dread the day that your oldest child, like you just don't know what it's going to be like. It's so foreign to think that they will not come home every night. And so you really think that you're losing them. I mean, I just cried so much happy senior year of high school. And I would love to go back and tell myself, like, you're going to be okay. In fact, you're going to be better than okay.
Yeah.
You're actually entering one of the most exciting seasons in your kid's life. And you get to see what the Lord's going to do with them. And you get to have a front row seat to that. So you get to celebrate with them as they learn how to pay their bills, make doctor's appointments, and they have to figure out how to pick good friends and roommates. But you get to come in and out of their adult lives and do the fun things with him. And after some time and practice through prayer, you learn that you don't have to worry about when they come home at night. You don't even know. And so at first that's really scary. Later on, I'm so glad. I'm like, I'm going to bed. I'm leaving them in the Lord's hands. They're going to be okay. But just watching them, they will struggle through some things, but watching them learn that they can do it is so exciting.
Right. And if you've had kind of a rocky senior year, your relationship will actually improve with some space. I think your kids appreciate you more when they go away. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, my mom, wow, she really did help me out a lot. Now I have to do this on my own. Or, oh, wow, now I really appreciate my parents. Or sometimes my oldest would call and say, oh, wow, I'm meeting people whose parents don't help them with X, Y, or Z. Thank you guys for being there to help me make those decisions or whatever. Whereas when they're living at home, they're like, get out of my business.
Right. All of a sudden, you're the best cook in the world, too.
Yes.
I've noticed that my cooking went from 0 to like 100 after they left the house.
I know. My oldest once on fall break said to the ones that still lived at home, they were complaining about dinner. And she said, you guys don't know how good you have it. And I've never forgotten that she said that.
Someone to cook for them.
I know.
Yes. Or you take them out to eat at a nicer restaurant. They're like, thank you so much for taking us out and paying for it.
I know. There are good things, but it's almost like no one really can tell you that. They can tell you that, but you won't believe it. until you have to go through it.
It's true.
Okay, well, here is something that everyone who loves to read should be taking advantage of, but I think a lot of people don't know about it. And I only learned about it a few years ago. But if you are not able to get enough books out of your own local free library, you can pay to join the libraries around you. And a lot of times it's not that expensive. I am a member of my local library, but the Nashville bigger library is not something I can join for free, but it's only $10. So I pay $10 a year and I have access to all of their online catalog. I rarely even get a hard copy book out of the library. I can, but I can get all the books I want on Overdrive and, electronic books, audiobooks for free that way. Well, for the $10, and it's totally worth it. So if you are someone that's spending money on Audible or subscription-based things, maybe look at, are there any libraries around me that I could join? I would actually get unlimited borrowing, and I would expand the number of titles that I have access to.
That's a great idea because I am paying my Kindle subscription once a month.
Okay.
And sometimes I'm kind of bored with the things that it offers that are considered free under that subscription. And I think I would much rather be a part of a library. I need to figure that out.
Yeah, Audible's so expensive.
Yeah. So I think it's great. I think you can never be a member of too many libraries. Maybe just really Google and search all the free things or almost free things you could be a member of before you pay subscriptions.
Yeah, that's a good
Great
idea.
Yeah.
Julie, something else you've learned yesterday.
Travel enriches your life.
Yes. I've learned that just by watching you, Julie.
Me too,
if you know
Julie.
me recently, you know that. But if you knew me newly married, I was a different person. I remember John and I went on a trip with him that he had for work to Boston. And I remember we got in kind of late at night and we were staying right in the downtown area, and he wanted to go out to dinner, and we would be riding the subway, and I was just like, oh no, that's too scary. We can't be out after dark in a big city.
Right.
I remember he was so disappointed because he honored that because he knew I was so afraid. But now I look back and I think, who was that person? That is not me at all now.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened, but I guess I got the travel bug, once you experience it and realize how great it is. But I don't know, those memories stay with you forever. And it doesn't even have to be international places or big places. It could be places in your own state. Hikes, state parks, small towns, fun restaurants, just anything. I just like those experiences.
Yeah.
Trying things new, getting out of your own little world.
Right. Yeah, I know that just seeing the pictures and hearing about the places you've gone has made me visit some of them, because when I kind of tend to need to hear that someone else liked it first. And then I'm like, okay, I can do it too.
Right. Yeah, Julie did it and she didn't die. Right. And she had fun.
So I probably will too.
Marie's doing her research.
Yeah. That's like following the mom who's a little bit ahead of you on the path. It's like following the traveler a little bit ahead of you. I know Julie's done good research. She had a good time. I'll just do hers. Thank you.
That's right. Oh, you hear that, Julie? Marie trusts your research.
Yes.
That's a high compliment, actually.
Yeah. Mindy, what have you learned?
Well, something that I have, it's taken me into my 40s to learn is my true idea of home. And I've talked about this a few times, but I've always longed for home. I've longed for that place. I used to think that it was like all my friends that grew up in the same place, and they had friends from 30 and 40 years ago, and they all went to school together, and they all, their kids are growing up together. And I've always felt on the outside of that. I never knew what that would be like. And so coming to the heart of those feelings, I realized what it is that I want is just to feel accepted, a part of something, like known, loved, and included. And it's taken me into my 40s to realize that whether you're the woman that's moved a lot or you're the woman that's grown up in the same place all her life, nobody feels that way all the time. And so I've had to separate that with an actual physical location, because I know that the longings of my heart are never going to be made full until I'm in heaven. I will never feel fully known, accepted, a part of something, loved until I'm there. And so my journey in this walk of life, I might as well have an adventure. I might as well get in there and get to know people and thrive and make new friends for the rest of my life, wherever I am, because my idea of home has changed.
Yeah. And to be fully known is a divine need. So you're right.
Yes.
That can't be fully met here.
Right. It's not a physical place here.
Right.
I can relate, though, to what you're saying about, and movies romanticize this. We do romanticize growing up. Then we all have kids with the people that we went to school with, and they grow up, and we cheer for the same hometown football games for 30 years, and we see the same people in the stands. And I've never had that either, but it's good for me to hear you say that, I think if you haven't had it, you think it would be wonderful. And if you do have it, you're probably like, well, it's not all it's cracked up to be, guys.
Right.
And it's probably not the norm anymore. It's probably not as common to have that anymore.
Right. And again, it goes back to like Bryce and I were just talking the other day. We're like, we didn't want this for our kids. We grew up as military kids thinking, when we have kids, we want them to be able to grow up in the same place and have friends for a long time. And here we are. We're like, well, our kids don't have that either, but they seem pretty well developed. So
yes. Oh, man. I'm going to share my last one, and then I'll have Julie and Mindy share their last one. My last thing that I learned literally just yesterday is something about Amazon Prime. And listeners, I think you're going to want to hear this. So anyways, I had called about a return that hadn't credited to my account. And then I got to talking because my parents had actually toyed with the idea of signing up for Amazon Prime so that they could use the TV part of it. Because they've kind of, in quarantine, exhausted their Netflix options. And I said, there's some shows on Amazon Prime you could watch. So I said, is there any kind of deals for like senior citizens or anything like that? And she said, well, not really. She said, but you can actually share a household with Amazon Prime. And I said, really? They let you do that? And she said, yeah, you can have, like, if your parents could be a part, it's almost like you could split your membership and they would have their own email and account login and you would have yours, but it's not cheating the system. They'll let you do that with another person. And I was just so astounded that that's been an option because Prime has gotten pretty expensive. It's $120 and my parents are not going to use the subscription aspect enough to make it worth the $120.
Yeah, that's good to know.
That is really good to know. My goodness.
All right, Julie, what'd you learn yesterday?
Well, this is back to talking to new moms, new parents. Just don't discount how much your kids will change you. I think as a new parent, I just got all excited about how much I was going to impart to this child.
Right.
And I feel like on the other end, it was the other way around. Like I feel more changed by them and that experience than maybe I changed them. I don't know. Children sooner or later expose your flaws, your weaknesses, your pride, your deficiencies. Like it all just comes out, and hopefully that's an opportunity to grow and change and get better. So that's just not something I was expecting. I just thought it was all a one-way thing.
Everybody's going to be the perfect parent until they actually have a child.
Oh my goodness. So true.
Yeah. All right, Mindy.
My last one is basically when the things that I learned when my kid got lost and almost died at the beach.
Ooh.
Okay, so I say this it's kind of funny, but it's kind of not. But basically, when Nathan was 3, he had a couple of instances in his third year of life that really changed me as a person and as a mom. But basically, he did get lost at the beach, and it's a long story. But when you have to stand there and like describe your child and tell what they were wearing and show how tall they are, and it was an hour and a half before he was found.
Oh my goodness,
and,
Mindy.
The things that went through my mind, I can't even describe. Yeah. It was life altering in that hour and a half. And his same year of life, he also pushed out. We were in Brentwood. And the 3rd story window, I just laid him down for a nap, and he had pushed out the screen and was waving at my neighbor next door during nap time.
Oh my goodness, Mindy.
My sweet Nathan is now 12, and I praise God that he's still with us. But it just really changed me. I think I felt it. We're talking about that sense of control. He showed me flat up in my face I had no control. I thought that I could save my kid from everything. I thought that I could like cushion their little lives and keep them safe all the time. And you would think like it would make me cling harder or get anxious or more worried, but it actually gave me this freedom that I couldn't control it. I had to let go more. And again, it taught me to just put their lives in the Lord's hands, but it also gave me a joy having fun with my kids. So it's a hard lesson. And it was a traumatic event, but it made me more fun as a mom too, because then I wasn't so worried all the time. I was like, we're going to live. We're going to live every day and let's have some fun together. So it took that sense of control away and gave me freedom and joy.
Yeah. I think the more you realize the less control you have, it is freeing. And instead of causing you to hold on tighter, I think it allows you to be freer.
Yes.
Well, I just remember when you first told me that story, Mindy, like in real time when Nathan was 3. And I just remember thinking that must have been terrifying, just terrifying. And the fact that nothing damaging happened to him is just a literal miracle.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my goodness. All right. We hope that you guys have enjoyed hearing about some of the things that we learned yesterday. We would love to hear about some of the things that you guys have learned yesterday. You can contact us on our email, midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com, or come and find us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. All right, Julie, Mindy, you guys know what time it is. It's time for I'm a Fan. Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
I'm a fan of a protein shake. My son started drinking muscle milk, and I tried that a couple of times, and it's okay. And so I was looking, they're kind of hard to find in the store. So I was trying to get him some more muscle milks, and I ran into these ones that were next to them called Premier Protein, and it was banana and cream flavored.
Ooh.
And I think that's what I didn't like. Somehow the chocolate with the other shake just didn't taste right. But these are banana and cream flavored, and they're so good.
Now,
he
are
won't
they
drink banana.
pre-mixed? Like you just have to open them up and drink them? Oh, okay.
It's in a little cardboard carton, and they're 160 calories, and they have 30 grams of protein, which is pretty high. I really like them. They can be a meal replacement or something before I go work out. But I love the flavor.
Oh, good. That's good. Yeah, we have always for years had this gigantic thing of protein in the pantry, like powder that Steve and the boys add to their smoothies. So, but I'm sure the pre-mixed ones taste a little bit better.
Yeah, they don't have that grainy taste that the powder.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
I'm a huge fan of Chick-fil-A. Other than the delicious chicken, I'm a fan because it has given now 2 of my sons a job experience. So Grant worked for Chick-fil-A from the time he was 15 until 18. And now Jacob, my 14-year-old, just got a job at Chick-fil-A. And just the things that he's learning is just incredible. And also he just smiles so largely when I ask him about his job. And so there are things that I can't teach him well at home by myself that he's learning at Chick-fil-A. Timeliness, responsibility, having a boss, serving others, being kind with difficult people.
Yeah.
Taking care of his work clothes. He's been having to think ahead and do his laundry, and he's washing them on his own. And I am just so thankful for the joy he has. The pride at being able to earn a paycheck is something I could never give him.
Right.
I'm a huge fan that Chick-fil-A has hired now 2 of my children.
Yes, that's wonderful. I'm a fan of this, but I'm not a fan of this. So, you know how they say in your 40s, like, I always have perfect eye exams. But he's always, the past couple of years, he's like, well, but you might find you need some readers here or there. And I'm always like, I don't need that. But then this week I'm asking my daughter, how do you make the font bigger on your phone again? What's that setting? And I don't want to be one of those people that just my font is visible from 4 rows back in the theater. Like someone else can seriously read my text messages. But it really feels like
you can only see one word at a time.
I know. I'm kind of feeling like my eyes are straining. So I did buy some readers at Costco, but the lowest degree they had was 1.25. Well, that was just way too much for me. And so I got on Amazon, and you can get them down to 0.25, 0.50. So and it's hard to find those just like at the drugstore or in a regular store. So I ordered some on Amazon. I bought a couple different packages. So I'll put links to the ones that I liked, and I didn't end up keeping both, but I think they both were really good options. And I think they came 5 or 6 pairs for about $15, which that's really inexpensive. You can afford to keep them in your car, your purse, whatever.
Yeah, and you'll need them all over the house, Marie.
I know. So I don't need them all the time, but I know I can notice that if I'm going to be reading for a long time, especially on my phone. So anyways, if you are needing some readers, but you don't want to spend a lot of money, and maybe you just don't even need that much help, you don't need 1.25, you can go on Amazon and get much less.
Nice.
Yeah, that's important. You should only use the least amount that works. You don't need to go too high. So
yeah. I know, because these 1.25s, they were awesome close up. I felt like I was reading, but as soon as I would lift my eyes upward, I felt like I was almost dizzy.
Strain.
Yeah. So anyways, that's kind of I'm a fan, but I'm not a fan of needing readers too.
Right.
All right. Guys, thanks so much for talking with me today. I loved hearing what you guys learned yesterday, and I know that we'll keep on learning together.
Yes, we will.
I enjoyed hearing what you guys said. It was good to get to know you better. And
yes.
Yeah, I hope we can keep laughing through some of these things.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.